Hey everyone, thanks for coming back and tuning in. This is going to be part one of the question and answer session. So I put it out there on Facebook to see if anyone had some questions, put it out on our Instagram page, talked to some parents and families that we currently work with, and they had some great questions. So I figured it'd be pretty cool to kind of have those questions for everybody and answer them really briefly in this video. And hopefully you guys will have some more questions or feel more comfortable bringing forward some more, questions or thoughts or concerns that we can go over for everybody's benefit. To recap, I am the owner and chief clinical officer, Amanda Rosenbaum, and I'm going to be answering questions from our parents. So here we go. Okay, well, my image is in the way, so let's get that out of there. Okay, what's your educational background? That was a big one. A lot of people had that. So I got my undergraduate at Rhode Island College. I'm originally from Rhode Island, so stayed in my home state for college, and my degree was in psychology with behavioral neuroscience. So I kind of been in the field of behavior and neurology and from the psychological component for a while. That's my undergraduate. Then I actually did a stint of time where I was a preschool teacher. And that was like right after I got my undergraduate, and I kind of was trying to figure out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. Then from there, I realized quickly I wanted to be in the field of ABA. So I went for my master's degree. I got that at Capella. Honestly, I did that online at home while I was working professionally in the field as a registered behavioral technician. And very quickly, getting your master's degree, you kind of know right off the bat if you want to be a BCBA or not. I knew I wanted to be BCBA, so I started my supervision hours. You have to do about 1,500 field hours, if not more, depending on kind of who your supervisor is, what kind of work you're doing, all that kind of stuff. So I quickly started those hours while I was in school and working full time, and got that, then passed my BCBA exam, and then became certified in the state of Ohio as a COBA. So my educational background goes to a master's degree. Good question. Right. What made you get into ABA and how long have you been doing it? Oh, so kind of relates back to the educational question. I got into ABA because while I was a preschool teacher, I had a very young student and she was on the autism spectrum. The family had just received the diagnosis, and they kind of went through the whirlwind that all families go through when they first get their diagnosis, and you got a little 2 to 3 year old kiddo and you're not really sure what's up, what's down, what's happening. Kind of the preconceived notions you had for your baby girl or baby boy go out the window, and now you're trying to put all these things in place. So while I was the lead teacher in this preschool classroom, they had their ABA team come into the classroom and start working with her right there for us. And I got to see it hands on right in front of me every day. And the BCBA that worked with her was incredible. She gave me a lot of fantastic ideas, tips, tricks, everything that didn't only help the student, but helped the entire class. So I think right from then, I just fell in love with it. And her and I got to talking, and she explained that her background was in psychology and behavioral neuroscience. And I was like, oh my gosh, me too. So that's definitely how I got into it. I knew I was hooked. I knew I wanted to work with kids. I knew I liked the teaching component. I knew I was in love with psychology and neuroscience. So it kind of just all fell into place, which is cool. How long have I been doing it? I've been doing it since 2012, was the first time I was in the field. So a bit. I'd say a long time. I know there are plenty who have been in the field longer than me, but a good bit. What do you think, what do you like most and least about the field of ABA? What do I like most? I like working with the families the most, and I like working with my students, my clients the most. I like calling them kiddos or friends. I think that sounds, nicer, more personable. But I love them. I get very attached to the families. I love watching the change happen right before my eyes. I love getting families to a place of, when I meet them and they're really stressed out and things are really confusing and hard to, maybe a year down the road, everyone just seems more relaxed and they can breathe and they know what they're doing. And that's huge for me. So I love that part of ABA. What do I like least about ABA? I don't like the perceived notion that the field has. I hate that. Like it hurts my heart a lot. I say that to the kids too when I'm working, like, oh, it hurts your heart. It does. It hurts my heart. This field is so awesome, and it can be so dynamic, and it can work with so many other fields, and it can just be so inclusive to help so many people. But we have such a bad rap, and we have such a rough beginning. And I think those notions and those preconceived ideas and the negative stuff that's come out about us, whether it was in the past or really far in the past, or maybe terrible providers who've done terrible things, that stinks. So I don't like that. That's what I like least. What made you want to start your own ABA company? This was asked by multiple people, so I like this one. This quote right here, that's why I put the picture in. I've only read through these questions once, by the way, just to get the pictures to go with the questions. So this is really like the first time I'm sitting down trying to answer them, is with you guys on the other end of the video. A ship in the harbor is safe, but that's not what ships were built for. I was kind of going through a period in my life where I was happy doing what I was doing, but I wasn't happy overall. And I was trying to figure out why that was, and what was going on. And I kind of felt like I wanted to do things in a particular way that I hadn't really seen done before. I've worked in multiple different states. Like I said in a previous video, I worked in about 4 states for multiple different supervisors and different companies, in schools, out of schools, in homes, in clinics, the whole shebang. I even worked for a period of time where I wasn't working with students at all. I was working with psychometrics, which is like questions and answers and testing and stuff. So I kind of always felt like it was there, that I wanted to go off and kind of put all those together and start my own thing. But right there, I love boats. I love everything nautical, as you can tell from the name of our company. But I was always kind of afraid to go and do it. And I think with everything that happened with COVID-19, I kind of realized that 10 years was really far away. So for me to always put my plan 10 years away, 10 years away. And I could probably help a lot of people in the next 10 years if I just started today. And that's why, that's what made me want to start my own company. Plus, I wanted to see how I could do things in a way that I felt would help people. And I'm very honest. I like being very ethical. I like kind of bringing that piece into it. And I wanted to see what we could kind of put together. That was really my vision. So that's what made me start my own company. What can you provide? What makes Anchor ABA different from other companies? Right. Community. That was why I put these pictures also to remind myself what I wanted to say. Community. I think what makes Anchor ABA different is that we're trying to contact the community, meaning we want to keep that in-home therapy piece, even with our dreams of having our own clinic space in the future. We want to keep doing in-home. We want to do community services. We want to be a part of our community with giving back, with the Walk for Autism, with events going on, kind of trying to link up with, different autism societies and outreach groups and different stakeholders, and kind of building this unity in this community around one family and one child, except in the cases of families who have 2 children who are getting services, but a family and their children, building that community up around them to help guide them through this period of their life, and help people know that getting the diagnosis, although sometimes it feels like the ending, and I know I've dealt with a lot of families who just are crushed by it, I want to help them see that it's the starting line, not the finish line. Things are going to go on, and we're going to get there, and things are going to look real good. We're going to get that future to be positive, whatever that version of positive is for that family. I want to help that. And I want to build up that community around those families to get there. How is applied behavior analysis different than from other forms of therapies? That was a really good question. I like this question a lot. So when you hear therapy, a lot of people assume right off the bat, if I say, oh, I do applied behavioral analysis therapy, they assume that this is like talk therapy, and people come in and like lay on a couch and we talk about stuff. And that's not what I do at all. So the families I work with know that very much, but that's not the type of therapy it is. And then, you have other forms of therapy. My son's done physical therapy, and you have occupational therapy and speech therapy, and those all look different depending on which domain you're practicing in and which domain your family is going to. So I think what makes ABA therapy different is it's more of an interactive therapy where we can take it and adapt it to the environment that a child is in or a person is in. regardless of what they're doing, because what we're really pulling off of is the environment itself. So at its core, ABA, we're working on the environment. We're working on changing the stimulus in that person's environment in order to change kind of those behaviors, whether we want them to increase or decrease, or what have you, depending on the behavior it is. So I think ABA becomes different because it's very interactive. There's a lot of being on the floor playing with kids. Sometimes it looks like it's a lot of playing, which is fun, but sometimes it also means it doesn't look like a lot of work. There is a lot of real life experiences in it. So physical therapy, for example, is a good one to take. It's super important. It's super needed. You go there and you can expect to do exercises and movements, and you're doing certain things and you're using certain equipment. With ABA, whether you're in the clinic or in the home or in the school setting, we're using what's in that setting. So if we're in your home working on functional living skills, we're working with your child's toothbrush on how to brush their teeth or unload your dishwasher. So it's interactive, and it can be, I think, overall just a more personal form of therapy because you're so related. Every form of therapy becomes personable because you have, hopefully in your cases, fantastic providers who are, a part of your life and a part of your journey. But with ABA, we're really like focusing on the environment that you're in or that you want changes in. That was a good question. If I don't know you, I'm hesitant to trust you. Could you share? Yeah. Share some more things about yourself to your comfort level, of course. This was a good question. This is the only one I got like it, and I was hesitant to put it in the presentation because of how straightforward it was. It kind of took me off guard, but it's true. So that's fine. And I'm all for it. I'm an open book. So yeah, a little bit more about me. So I'm Amanda. My at-home nickname is Beans. My dad gave that to me years ago. I'm from Rhode Island, which is a very small state, and everyone knows everyone. But I'm very proud of the state that I'm from. My whole family pretty much lives there. Some stragglers here or there, but everyone I know is in Rhode Island. I have a dog. She's a border collie. Before I had my children, she was the main person I used ABA with and taught her to do some really fun tricks and stuff. And then I had two babies. So I have a 3-year-old daughter and I have a 1-year-old son. And then they took up all my time. Yes, I use ABA with my own children. Yes, I use a lot of different behavioral intervention practices. I organize our life. I have routines. I have consequences that I follow through on, like the whole shebang. With a lot of my families, they know I have kids, and we kind of talk about the fact of, I'm going to recommend stuff that I do with my own children. So it's not something I feel wouldn't be safe or forthcoming or anything like that. Because I've done it with my own two. My son, who is 1, he did suffer a stroke as a very brand new baby. So that was hard to hear, but we went through the process of hearing and seeing with our own eyes some developmental delays. They really manifested as gross motor, and he had some single side paralysis for a while. And we went to PT, and we got evaluations from OT and from speech, and we've gone through the gauntlet. I've heard from pediatricians and other neurologists, other medical professionals, that he has been behavioral, and he does have some behavioral tendencies because of what he's been through. But we worked through it. And I think that experience made me a completely different type of provider. I think it put me on the side that, I always would talk to parents and hear what they had to say, but I never felt it. And now I felt it. And now I continue to feel it. Not on the same scale, not through the same pain. Everyone has their own lens. Everyone's, working through their own stuff. But on a certain level, I think it was, as hard as it is and as hard as it was, I think it's had its benefits in the sense that I can be a little bit more empathetic than I think I was before. But they're crazy. They're both very nonstop and go, 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 but I love them. And last little fun fact, my husband is a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy. He is now active, he's now reserves. He left active duty service about a year ago. So that's me. Hopefully that helps you get to know me a little bit more on a bit more of a personal level. But that's a good question. I mean, I'm coming into your home if you're one of my clients, so I get it. You would want to know a little bit more about me. That's totally fair. How is autism different from other conditions? I liked this question too. So we have diagnostic criteria. So we have like the DSM, that's your diagnostic manual. I don't use the DSM a super lot. I use it as a reference guide, but I'm not diagnosing. Different professions and different adjacent fields within psychology will use this to diagnose, and so will doctors. They'll use this to diagnose. So for me, kind of trying to explain this, autism is a neurological disorder. I know that's kind of still new for some people, or some people still look at autism and think, oh, Rain Man or whatever's on TV currently. And TV can serve as a lot of good because I think it gets awareness out of there, but then also I think it puts a lot of false information out there too, which isn't always great. But yeah, so it's a neurological condition, just like other conditions. As you can see here with the DSM-4, we were looking at the pervasive developmental disorders, and then autism fell into that, and we were kind of looking at these three biggies as being what made autism. Now in the DSM-5, we're looking at that social communication and the restriction and fixated interests as being like your two main components, and then expressive language can be on a continuum. As we know, autism is a continuum, so it is like a spectrum. You can have Asperger's. I'm 90% sure is no longer considered a diagnostic criteria. They kind of put that at the low end of the spectrum. But someone who, is presenting very, very mild autism has mild autism, and then you have moderate autism, and then you have severe autism, and it's on a spectrum. So I think that's another thing that makes it a little bit more unique, but overall it's not super different than other neurological conditions and other disorders that would be diagnosed through the DSM. So it's, yeah. Hopefully that helped answer the question. If you have more questions on that, please re-ask them, and I will do more research to have hopefully more of a clear answer. But my answer right off the bat would be, it's not super different than other neurological disorders and disorders of the mind. Just because it's of the mind doesn't mean it's not there. And I think that's another miscommunication. It's there, and it's a neurological condition. All right. Do you only work with kids who have autism? No. And I liked this image a lot. I thought this was funny and pretty relevant. Some people like to think they know what we do, but we get to hang out with kids or adults, whatever population you're working with. But the answer is no. I do not only work with kids who have autism. Primarily, I work with children who have autism. Primarily through my career, that is who I have worked with, and it's because ABA is clinically proven to alleviate symptoms of autism, and it does it very well. So they make up the bulk of our population. I have worked with students who have had operational defiant disorder, conduct disorder. I've worked with some who've had personality disorder, bipolar disorder. I've worked with two who have had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. I have worked with adults who have mild and severe autism. I've worked with children who have mild and severe autism. I have worked with students who have apraxia. That's a whole nother thing. I've worked with neurotypical infants and their families to get them on track with kind of like routines and behavioral patterns and things like that. Yeah. I'm sure there's more populations I've worked with. Primarily, I work with children, so the kids part is right on. I have worked with adults. I kind of early on started to specialize with kids, so I kind of kept it that way. I liked that. But yes, no, I do not only work with kids who have autism. Right now, Anchor ABA is serving those with and without diagnosed autism, so that kind of opens us up again. But that's a good question. What specialties do you have in the field? Oh, yeah. So we don't, I definitely feel like you kind of get your niches as you go through the field. Everyone kind of, gets their little pinpoints of what they're good at, what they gravitate to, all that. Mine has been very young, newly diagnosed kiddos, where I kind of specialize with working with those families and getting them through the first initial years of therapy when they kind of are unsure of things and nervous. So that became a big niche, which turned into a lot of parent training and parent coaching to get them on the right track, but also working with non-vocal verbal kids, especially at the very young ages, but pretty much of any age. I'm not fluent in sign language, if that's going to be a follow-up question. I do know a lot of signs. I'm not fluent in sign language by any means. I do not know as much about communication devices as a speech language pathologist does and would, but I have become very well versed with a lot of different types because I've worked with a lot of kids who have a lot of different types. So yeah, non-vocal verbal kiddos, finding their language, finding their motivation, helping them hopefully learn how to use vocal words, and if not use vocal words, give them the easiest way to communicate within their environment. That kind of became a pretty big specialty for me. And then because working with the little guys, potty training, food issues, bathroom issues, sleep hygiene issues, functional living skill issues, social skills at an early age, all those kind of fall on top of one another. But if I had to pick one, it would probably be the non-vocal verbal kiddos and the parent coaching. That's a good question. What do you hope to accomplish with Anchor ABA? I hope to branch out so that we can reach different communities within Cincinnati and the greater Cincinnati area. And I hope that we can really start to work with parents. Too often do I hear parents say things along the lines of, everything was fine while you were here and then you left and it was the weekend and I didn't know what to do. Or I've watched you manage X, Y, and Z behavior a million times and it's fine, but then when I try to do it, I don't know what I'm doing. Or we came from X, Y, and Z of a location or X, Y, and Z of a school and they did fine, or they told me things were fine, but I don't know what I'm doing. No parent should feel like that. I think the worst that hit me was having multiple parents, especially during the COVID time, tell me they didn't know how to play with their children. I don't know how to have fun with my kids. And that crushed me because you should know how to have fun with your kids, but I can understand and sympathize why that is difficult for people in this community. So I want Anchor ABA to accomplish that. I want to work as the bridge where we're working with our kids and we're doing our jobs as ABA therapists and we're helping in all those domains. We're working adjacently really well, shoulder to shoulder with other types of disciplines so that we can help your child as best as possible. But then also at the end of the day, I want to be that bridge for parents. Almost work myself out of a job in a way, because at the end of the day, any ABA provider will be fleeting compared to parents. So, parents and families are where it's at. So I hope Anchor ABA can accomplish that. I hope that, we can do that and much, much more for the people of the community. So that was it. So this is broken up into 2 parts. I didn't want to get this too crazy long. So if you're interested in hearing more question and answers, go check out part 2 that's dropping in a couple days. I'm going to record that another day, but we have more questions. If you have more questions, visit us at www.anchoraba.live and you can, ask me questions through the contact, talk to me about any of that kind of stuff. You can also email us at the email address below, anchoraballc@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook. Any of those things would be great. And I'd, love to chat with you more, and stay tuned. We're going to have more parent coaching series coming up, free content, and then hopefully starting some pretty exciting curriculum in the future. So thanks guys for your questions. Hopefully you guys have more questions for me in the future, and I'll talk to everybody later.